Hello, ladies. Today we're going to start a series of talks on earthing. And the reason that I'm starting this practice for you right now is because I know many of you are struggling with sleep. Earthing is a habit that we can, earthing is a conscious, intentional habit that we can bring into our everyday living that has tremendous benefits. Earthing is a practice that we can bring into our everyday that has tremendous health benefits. Did you know that there is an untapped wellness source right beneath your feet? It's earthing. Go outside every day in bare feet and walk upon the damp earth, and you will look and feel your best. Like the human body, the earth is electrically conductive. Now think about some experiences that you may have had in nature. How do you feel when you're at the ocean and the waves are crashing around you? How do you feel when you're out at a waterfall and feeling the tremendous energy of the water falling from above? Some people describe it as electrifying or exhilarating. Well, that energy that you're experiencing, particularly with waterfalls, crashing water, and being outdoors in nature during electrical storms, is actually negatively charged free electrons that are present in the air. Well, these electrons actually flood the these electrons actually flood the entire surface of the earth. They're abundant in oceans, rivers, waterfalls, lightning. Did you know that lightning strikes the earth 100 times every second? Our planet has been likened to a big battery, continually charged with negative electrons. Now, what a lot of people are not aware of is that the Earth actually has something called electrical potential. And this electrical potential that the Earth has a stabilizing effect on our own internal bioelectrical systems. It has the ability to neutralize oxidation in our body, and it affects our immune system and our inflammation. And it affects our inflammation and our immune response. In fact, the electrical potential of the earth is actually so strong that it cancels out all other forms of ambient electricity, including electrical pollution. Earthing is essentially a practice where you go out in nature and you stand upon the earth and you put your hands upon the earth. You need direct. Earthing is actually a practice that's been around since the beginning of time. And now more people are understanding the positive effect that the earth service. Now, let's start that again. Earthing has been around since the beginning of time. And we're going to talk in the next talk about how our ancestors had access to this energy on a daily basis. So what is earthing? Earthing is also known as grounding. It's actually walking out in nature. Earthing, also known as grounding, is walking out in nature in bare feet. You need direct contact with your skin on the earth. In order to earth, your skin has to be in direct contact with grass, soil, sand, or even stone. In fact, you can even earth on concrete. Unfortunately, you cannot earth on asphalt because asphalt contains um, some, because asphalt actually has particles that are insulating. Asphalt actually is an insulator, so it doesn't work for earthing. So, day 2. What's missing today? For centuries and centuries, our ancestors walked upon the bare earth. They stood, they slept, they worked, and they wrapped themselves primarily in hide and made shoes of hide. Now, when their perspiration moistened the animal skins, when their perspiration moistened the animal, when their perspiration moistened the animal skins that they worked and slept on, it gave them direct access and direct contact with the free electrons on the Earth's surface. This provided humans an equilibrium with the Earth's. This contact provided humans equilibrium with the Earth's potential, thus permeating and stabilizing their skin, their tissues, their organs, their cells, directly aligning them with the rhythm of the Earth. Today, our modern day lifestyle has removed us from the Earth in so many ways. But in particular, the development of plastics and modern shoes has really completely insulated us from the electrical potential of the Earth. We spend most of our days indoors looking at screens under fluorescent lighting. In the 60s, leather shoe soles were mostly replaced. Oh my gosh. In the 60s, leather shoe soles were mostly replaced with rubber or other synthetic shoe soles. In this process, we completely insulated ourselves from the Earth's electrical current. We spend most of our days indoors looking at screens and under fluorescent light. Day 3. We spend most of our days indoors looking at screens under fluorescent light. The byproducts of our lifestyle is an abundance of positive ions in our system that we're exposed to. As a result, our lifestyle exposes us to a lot of positive ions. The sources include air pollution, air conditioning, fluorescent lights, cell phones, televisions, computers, toxic chemicals in carpeting and upholstery, paint, and printers. So what's wrong with positive ions? Positive ions actually impair our brain function and suppress our immune system, causing symptoms such as anxiety, breathing difficulty, fatigue, headaches, irritability, lack of energy, poor concentration, nausea, and vertigo. What's great about earthing is it counteracts our modern lifestyle and has been proven to neutralize other electrical frequencies such as harmful electromagnetic frequency such as harmful EMF radiation. Day 3. Something happened in the late 19th century. It was called the Back to Nature movement in Germany. And it advocated people to go outdoors barefoot in all weather. And actually, a lot of my friends and clients who are German often remind me that there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes. So, this is actually my 7th season outdoors. I'll tell you more about that later in the talk, but I will tell you that this has been incredibly healing and medicinal for me. In the 1920s, a gentleman called Dr. White recommended people sleep. In the 1920s, a gentleman named Dr. White recommended that people with sleep problems ground themselves by sleeping on the earth. Then, in the late 20th century, research was being conducted in the US and Poland that made use of bed pads that had grounding wires to conduct the Earth's charge. The studies concluded that grounding the human body represents a universal regulating factor in nature that strongly influences bioelectrical, bioenergetic, and biochemical processes and appears to offer other significant modulating effects on chronic illness. The study concluded that grounding the human body represents a, quote, universal regulating factor in nature that strongly influences bioelectrical, bioenergetic, and biochemical processes and appears to offer other significant modulating effects on chronic illness. So, what does earthing do for us specifically? Well, to date, there are 21 published scientific studies that have been peer reviewed. Well, to date, there are 21 peer reviewed scientific studies that focus on earthing. Earthing balances our autonomic nervous system, which regulates our heartbeat, our respiration rate, our digestion, our perspiration, our urination. In fact, it takes us from a sympathetic, in fact, it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. We've talked a little bit about how this is the rest and digest part of our nervous system that heals, recovers. Okay, let's talk about that again. Earthing takes us from a sympathetic state of fight or flight into a parasympathetic state of rest, relaxation. Remember, our parasympathetic nervous system is the part of us when we cultivate our parasympathetic nervous system, we are actually putting money into our health bank account. The parasympathetic nervous system is our rest, digest. The parasympathetic, oh my gosh, the parasympathetic nervous system is our rest, digest, and repair. The parasympathetic nervous system is our rest, digest, repair, and healing. Oh my gosh, forget that part. Earthing de-stresses our body and allows it to begin repairing and restoring any imbalances. People who practice earthing regularly claim to sleep better, have less pain, more energy, improved mood, and quicker healing. I can attest to this myself. Before the pandemic, well, let me talk about that later. I can attest to this myself. As I mentioned, this is my 7th season outside. Before the pandemic, I worked 6 days a week under fluorescent lights in a very posh, wonderful gym. After the pandemic, I moved my training outdoors and have been outdoors ever since. I used to have a lot of chronic body pain, especially around my hips. What I find miraculous is that since I've been training outdoors, I've definitely noticed big improvements in my mood, in my energy level. And the biggest one I would say is I have no body pain. Before the pandemic, I always had like a low level of some kind of body pain, particularly around my hips. And the funny thing that I noticed is that there were a few days in the winter where I hadn't gotten out and I hadn't gotten my feet on the ground because it was so cold. And I could feel the pains starting to creep back up on me. So I was wondering, why am I having pains? And I said, oh my gosh, I haven't had any contact with the earth in days. So I went outside and I sat and put my feet on that cold earth. And every time I was astonished that the next day I had no pain again. It's really amazing. I've known about earthing for a long time and I've practiced earthing, in dribs and drabs through my lifetime. But this pandemic gave me the opportunity to really like practice it every day. And it was through that practice every day that I really started to understand the benefits and feel them. And I became completely convinced that this is something I need to do forever. In fact, I use it with my children when they're emotionally upset or, throwing a tantrum or fighting. I will send them outside in bare feet and tell them to go outside and earth so that they can get some kind of emotional regulation. And they return much calmer. Earthing has been scientifically proven to regulate our circadian rhythm. And that is why I've introduced this habit to you as one of our first habits around sleep hygiene. It and our circadian rhythm is our circadian rhythm has to do with our wake and sleep cycles. Earthing also improves our quality of sleep. It reduces acute and chronic inflammation in your entire body. It reduces pain. It improves wound healing. It reduces stress and tension. Another great thing it does for us here in perimenopause is it regulates cortisol, which is one of our stress hormones that we've talked about a little bit. That hormone, as we know, affects our fight and flight. That hormone, as we know, can activate our sympathetic fight and flight nervous system, but it's also associated with our biological clock. Earthing improves thyroid function. It reduces delayed onset muscle soreness. It increases our heart rate variability. We'll talk more about our heart rate variability later in the PeriLink program. It reduces blood viscosity, thus thinning the blood. It helps regulate blood sugar. As I mentioned, it increases the parasympathetic activity in the nervous system. As I also mentioned, it eliminates ambient electropollution. And it decreases osteoporosis. It increases our circulation. So, how does one earth? What's entailed? You can reap the benefits of earthing by spending 10 to 20 minutes outdoors barefoot daily. You need to be standing on soil, grass, sand, stone, or concrete. Asphalt will not work because it's conductive. Asphalt will not work because it's insulative. There are also something called earthing mats or sheets that you can get that you can put into your bed. I know this sounds strange, but we actually do this here. I use this as an insurance in case I didn't get outside. So how this works is, hang on one sec, I'll get one. So this is an earthing mat that I use in my bed. And it just feels like a plastic, kind of like a yoga mat. One side of it is a little bit smoother and the other side is a little bit kind of rougher. And it has a plug that snaps in here. And then this portion the other side of the plug has a piece that plugs into the grounding hole on the socket. Now, in order to use these safely, you have to make sure that all of the outlets in your house are actually grounded. You can buy a tool from the hardware store that checks the ground to make sure that all of your electricity, to make sure that all your electrical work is actually safe. Because if you're not grounded, it could be dangerous. If lightning ever struck outside, you could get shocked. So you need to make sure that all of your plugs are grounded before you use this. Everyone in the house has a grounding mat in their bed, me and both the boys. And funny enough, my boys believe in grounding by proxy. And they requested grounding mats for Christmas last year. So that was in one of their Christmas gifts. Again, you can ground by the best method is to go outdoors and actually put your feet on the earth. But you can also use these grounding mats in your home.